The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Snapdragon, the all-in-one mobile processor. To win a tablet or smartphone, visit www.zatechshow.co.za/Snapdragon. And by Sharp. Check out the amazing new Sharp Interactive LED at www.sharpinteractive.co.za.
And welcome to episode 220 of the ZA Tech Show. I'm Sam Beckbessinger and I will be your host this evening. If you're watching us live and are joining us in the chat room, when you should, because it's awesome, it is Monday the 6th of August in the year 2012, I believe, last I checked. And we've got a really nice panel this evening. Firstly, we're popping Mr. Guy Taylor's ZA Tech Show cherry, which is something that I'm looking forward to. Guy, thanks for joining us on the show. Welcome.
Pleasure. It's much like real life cherry popping. It's still awkward. I'm a little unprepared. But hey, at least this time...
We'll have some... We'll cuddle afterwards and then
nice.
we'll be okay.
Nice.
No, we can't hear them. They're still muted. They're not important.
WTRX voice.
See, this is great. I have the control. I have the power. Guy is at XSYN on Twitter. I don't know how you say that, Guy.
Yeah, it actually wasn't... What?
Fine, I will unmute you guys.
XSYN is how you say it.
XSYN is how people say
And
it.
I'm sure it has a story.
Is that how you say it, though?
It really wasn't meant to as an audio kind of channel.
Right.
It's meant for text. It's
Totally.
made for text.
See, Guy never knew he was going to be so famous and kind of be on podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I use Guy in the real world, though. It works quite well.
He is literally that guy.
that guy. It's really great having you in the studio tonight.
Thanks for having me.
We also are joined by the very dapper Mr. Andy Hatfield from Real Time Wine. If you haven't downloaded this app, then please do. It's really cool and it will hook you on alcoholism and make you feel okay about it. Andy, welcome.
Am I unmuted now? Can I actually say something?
I give you permission to speak.
Freaking grumpy pants now. I had a whole
I'm
big
sorry.
joke about virgin romantic cherries and...
No, it's
bleh.
gone. It's over. You missed it.
Hello, Sam.
Hi. Thank you for joining us, Andy.
It's a pleasure.
Mr. at Andy Hatfield on Twitter. Yes?
That is me.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. And finally, in the other corner, Mr. at Bretsky.
The
Thanks.
man who has
The
a
man
wine that
himself.
tastes like bacon.
Dude, bacon.
Please
bacon.
tell me. Please tell me
Bought
about
a
this.
freaking win.
A
Seriously,
wine.
I bought 6 bottles of the sucker. Demis
Dude.
Fontaine, who makes a really, really good pinotage, have got this blend of like everything imaginable. It has Viognier in it. It has Shiraz. It's like
And bacon.
and it smells like bacon.
Wow. Is it vegetarian friendly?
I'm sure it is. I'm
Oh,
sure no real
sure.
pigs were hurt in the making of this wine.
Actually, they put gelatin in a lot of red wine. Sorry, total
right.
sidetrack. This isn't the ZA.
And they often fine using egg whites.
Yes.
So it also kind of
That's
freaks
what-
out some
very
of the
well.
veggies.
Generally, life sucks if you're a vegan.
To bring it back to tech, I got followed by a Russian spammer the other day.
Congratulations.
I
Was
know.
it hot?
It was good for me.
Yeah.
And their bios said that they were a bacon ninja.
It's better than being a Twitter ninja, right?
So
Can I
bacon
can I
is
just
so
say
trending
I'm
right now.
I'm actually influential in bacon on Cloud.
I
Seriously.
noticed. I noticed you've included this in
I
your
have,
bio.
I have about 6 K pluses in bacon.
Does that mean anything, though?
I'll take it.
It means yes.
No, I think cloud has its issues, but it's still the best measure of topical
Bacon
influence
influence.
in inverted
You never
commas
know
out
when you
there.
need to talk to that guy on Twitter about bacon, and you don't know who to
I'm
turn
getting
to.
plus Ks and haircuts of late.
Really?
Oh yeah, look, I don't think plus
Great.
Ks mean much. I think that's like a little sly wink from a friend who wants a plus K back. But the cloud kind of
Oh, is
algorithm.
that how it works?
Yeah, it's like poke. Poke
pay
me, I
me.
poke you back.
Good
There's a
grief.
lot of
Okay,
cherry popping
So
talk.
yeah, guys.
Hey, you wanted me to bring wine.
Let me bring this back to technology and all the tech news that happened this week. In fact, not much happened this week, let's be honest. So we are really just going to fart around for the next hour, but we'll try and make it entertaining. Let's first talk about, there's so much Windows and Office news this week. Let's get that out of the way. We don't give Windows much love.
Indeed.
Yeah, so the big news this week, the launch of Office 365 in South Africa, Outlook.com, Microsoft getting over the name Metro, no one cares.
Is so ridiculously strange. Okay, so let me quickly hop on the Metro topic for a second.
Yeah.
This is one that completely blew my mind. We carried it on Daily 5, and it's kind of like a dead-end story, because like, Microsoft has said you are no longer allowed to refer to it as Metro, but they can't tell you what to refer to it as, in the absence of not referring it to Metro. So
I mean, the question is, who's
weird,
really
right?
talking about the Microsoft UI anyway? I mean, how many times do you hear people talking about their amazing Aero experience?
I suppose. Although it is the one.
That's actually quite funny.
So,
Well, I had an amazing Aero experience, but it had chocolate involved.
Exactly.
But you know, in all honesty, it's the one element that is vastly, vastly different about Windows 8. So you'd expect it to be quite a big deal. Apparently, it's got to do with the fact that someone else has registered the trademark Metro. Funny that.
What, like the Metro?
Well, yes, like, like it's got something to do with trains and like the underground and stuff. But yeah, apparently someone else owns Metro, and now there's like a substantial amount of backpedaling. What never ceases to be absolutely amazing to me in this industry is the fact that this happens so damn often. All right, BlackBerry, all right, BBX, all right. So BlackBerry 10, before it became BlackBerry 10, it had this rad name of like BBX, and then they figured out that someone else owned it. There's a whole bunch. There was a whole debacle with Apple and Cisco owning the trademark to something Apple tried to do. It's just absolutely mad that people get to within weeks of launching a full-blown product that's been in development for 2-3 years,
yeah.
and then they're like, oh crap, we didn't think about this name thing.
But I mean, it must be said that BlackBerry and Microsoft are probably amongst the worst when it comes to naming their stuff.
Yes.
You know, at the best of times.
But well, Apple are joining them steadily with
The new iPad.
iPad without a suffix.
Although I can kind of get that, because
The new
realistically, the average consumer walking down the street is going to say, "Have you got the new iPad?" as opposed to the
No,
old
they're
one.
going to say iPad 2.
I don't know if they are.
The new iPad sounds like the new Coke, and
Yeah.
everyone knows that was a colossal
that was a
bomb.
failure. Fair
Anyway.
enough. Yeah.
I don't know. Oh man, I liked that. I liked Metro. I thought it was cool.
No, you know what, and I think it does, and I'm not trying to sound all pro Microsoft here, and yes, total disclosure, we have an app for Windows 8, but I think it does.
That sounds like a punt, not a
It
disclosure.
does tell you, well, yeah, that. But it
It can be.
could be. You can find it at daily5.tv. 5 numeral 5. The whole thing with Metro is, I think the word actually translated quite nicely into what the visual was. It's kind of, it looks like the inside of a subway station. All of those ads kind of stuck up and that kind of thing. Well, at least in my opinion, it kind of. So if you're standing like in a subway in Barcelona, there's all of the ads stuck up on the inside of the tunnel, right? And a lot of them are interactive now, and they're flipping tiles and giving you information. That's, I think, where they were shooting towards. It's just kind of sad that they're going to move away from that, because the alternative right now, let's face it, is WinRT. Far less catchy.
Isn't it really sad that they didn't sort it out? Because surely they must have known this was coming. Surely they must have. I mean, everything kind of hooks around the branding experience. You sit in a brainstorming session. You're building the product. You know the name's going to come up. You know the name's going to be used internally and leak externally, or your PR is going to hook around it. That's your kind of thematic UI, if you want.
Sure. I think the only reason, and I mean we're going on way too long, around this topic, but I mean I
just wanted to speak.
And now you have.
I'll gag Brett at some point in the show.
I
Don't
think
worry.
the only excuse anyone could have is that. So you do like a cursory look around the industry. Nobody's using that name right now. Okay, cool. Let's fly with it. And the savvy guys sit back and they wait till 2 weeks before you're going to launch something. You go, excuse me, pay us a ridiculous amount of money to use the name, or you can't name it that. So, So maybe it's a tactic. I don't know.
So Windows had or the Windows stable, Microsoft in general, had a couple of other things they spoke about this week. So, Brett, were you at the launch of Office 365? Do you want to tell us about it, quick?
I was, and it's really no great shakes except for the fact that it's coming out of beta for South Africa now. So, essentially all that means is they're now going to start charging for it, and they've formalized what the pricing tiers are going to be. Don't ask me what they are. They start from about 20-something bucks per user per month, and scale up to a couple of $100 a month depending. I think the exciting part is it's the first time we're starting to see something this comprehensive in terms of a suite of software being delivered properly through the cloud. So you've got the ability to have the web app stuff and a web-based email client, very much like Gmail and Google Docs right now, and then scale it all the way up to having like on-premise software, and there's SharePoint stuff built in. That's all available for like a monthly rental. So
is it better than Google Docs?
It doesn't have to be.
The free educational version isn't. It's using a web apps, right?
Yeah.
So you still have to be using it through a browser. It still depends on an internet connection. I think when you start looking at the ability to install Office locally and then use some cloud integration, that's where it starts getting kind of cool and interesting.
Yeah.
Although there have been plugins that have been let you do that with Google Docs for years.
Or Google Gears.
Yeah.
I think the stuff that Brett's talking about, where it gets interesting, also is kind of where it gets hairy, because you're going to have these enterprise architectures where these guys are going to plop down proxies, and if the net's down, then it's got to kind of do data synchronization, and then your integrity of your data gets messy.
But what I think the big attraction for a lot of people, specifically SMBs, is that I don't have to run out and spend $2-3 grand a seat on acquiring the software. I can spend like $150 a month. My Exchange is bundled into that, SharePoint's bundled into that, and the apps on a local basis. So, I mean, as you go up through the pricing tiers, you're actually getting access to the full-blown Office installed on your PC.
Right. Yeah.
So, then it starts becoming not web apps.
Yeah.
And that's, it's just a more cost-effective way of running
procuring
things, which I think is
Okay,
cool.
So,
wait,
I mean,
just repeat
Guy
for
and Andy, you both spend quite a lot of time talking to people in big corporates. Do you think that corporates are in the right headspace where they will be willing to start talking about this kind of cloud
locally
document here in Joburg?
No.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah.
I don't even see the want to make the shift.
There's
what
also
for?
no need to.
Yeah.
They've got their entire enterprise architecture all set up. To them, the cloud is still something the rain falls out of.
That infrastructure's kind of
Serious?
been laid and done.
Yeah.
Also, I think like they haven't looked at the security issues. I don't think they've looked at the bandwidth issues. Bandwidth at corporates, it was one of the really interesting things I learned very quickly is that you can bitch and moan that it's slow, but when you're pushing a terabyte a day because you've got 30,000 staff, it's a completely
they're all
different.
looking at lolcats during the lunch break.
Well, no, because that's blocked.
Oh,
And
fair
Facebook's
enough.
blocked, and video streaming is blocked, and most of stuff is blocked, and you're still pushing a terabyte a day on news sites.
You know that there is an app that sort of scrapes your Facebook feed and puts it in an Excel table, so you can read your Facebook feed, and if anyone walks past your desk, you're like, oh, I'm in Excel.
Pick
So,
that.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no use for that, but I want it because it's insanely
It's
cool. I
awesome.
would really dig to be able to do that.
But now, I mean, let me just repeat for understanding. So, Brett, you were saying that the Office 365 cloud thingy links into having actual physical copies of Office on your machine.
So there's multiple tiers, all right? There's a student and teacher edition that's free.
Talk
all
about
right?
it from a corporate point of view.
Okay, no. Let me,
Okay.
kind of start.
You
extending.
wanna
So you've got the
build up
student
to
and
it.
teaching version that's completely free, and it gives you access to the web versions of the suite, and it gives you access to an email address, right? Then you pay a little bit more if you're in a commercial entity. You get that same functionality, but it's very, very inexpensive, like $20 a month, right? And as you start scaling up, so the tier that's above that, you're getting the student and teacher version of Office installed on your computer, all right? It scales all the way up to an enterprise running a full hosted Exchange environment in the cloud, all right? Which has benefits because there's no backup, there's no DR, there's none of that stuff to worry about. You're paying per user. You can scale it up, you can scale it down according to what your staffing requirements are. On top of that, you can throw SharePoint. So remember, in all of this in the Microsoft ecosystem, you normally need servers running that software. You need admins,
Staff. Yeah.
So it's the ability
it
to
cheaper,
take the
though?
whole Microsoft. Yes, it does work out a lot cheaper because what people don't often factor into it is the cost of the staff and of off-site backup and
SharePoint engineers
all
now
of that
selling at
kind of
80K
stuff.
a month.
Yeah. So it does start making sense. I don't think it makes sense in the top end enterprises, because what they definitely don't want is their data living somewhere out in the cloud, at least yet.
Yeah.
But for SMBs, it makes phenomenal sense. It's like email, calendar integration, everything else across your team. And the nice thing is you can bring a contractor in for like 2 months and provision them and then shut it down, and you're no longer paying. Whereas before, they would have cost you $4,000 to bring 2 contractors on, because you'd have to buy 2 versions of Office. So it starts making sense in that context.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andy, I want to pick up on a throwaway comment you just made about SharePoint engineers. Is anyone else noticing how finally, all of a sudden, there is this massive exodus amongst corporates building giant websites away from SharePoint? Finally.
Oh, as in building with SharePoint as a CMS?
Yeah.
I haven't noticed it, but thank the Lord.
Yeah, my experience has actually been with open source CMSs and kind of other scale CMSs. I really haven't paid too much attention to the SharePoint realm, but what I've seen echoes Andy's thank the Lord.
Yeah, big time.
Where is SharePoint at the moment? I mean,
It's still
is it
it's
an intranet?
powering most of the big corporate websites in this country, as far as I know.
None of the corporates I've come across.
Wow.
are
I've
powered
seen
by
a number of.
SharePoint.
I've seen internals, a couple of mining companies.
Yeah.
SharePoint runs there.
I know Renault, apparently. Renault International runs on SharePoint.
I've seen a lot at Kojima.
I know what a lot of companies really like about it is you've got like a centralized point at which you push data
think
through,
it's
and then you've
also-
got the ability to kind of go, okay, this is for these eyes, this is
No,
for those
I,
eyes.
you know,
like
I think
Documenta.
it's
And
simpler
depending on the
than that.
credentials on the other end,
Yeah.
that they see what their credentials
It's
allow them to
simpler than
see,
that.
so, yeah.
It's that they've invested in SharePoint developers over the
Okay,
years,
all right.
and
Yeah.
they've
So they're
invested.
stuck in
So
this-
they're stuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
Even
know what
though
a cool,
everyone else
a
is
cool mini
abandoned.
story is?
Yeah.
My Way,
Mm.
not a small company.
No,
Okay, not a gigantic corporate, but they're not small.
but someone who understands the importance of the web in their overall business.
Yeah, and I'm sure they've got an ad spend that borders on the 100 million rand a year.
Mm-hmm.
They use WordPress.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, an entire corporate site, customer service front end, the works. WordPress.
Interesting.
WordPress. I mean, so full disclosure, I come from a CMS company. I mean, we do CMS particularly for news publishers. WordPress makes me shudder.
Really?
I wake up in the morning and it's like, how do we get around this WordPress problem? And it's finding niches. I hate that Americanism that sticks in me. it's finding the niche that they miss.
Niche.
But
The
I mean, it's even difficult to stay on top of that. WordPress
Yeah.
it's a beast.
So I mean, just to chime in here for a sec, the whole reason we custom developed our CMS was
Yeah.
because we could have very easily picked WordPress up, pre-baked CMS, and then started adding a little bit to it and stripping stuff out. The weird thing is, it was quicker for us to build a CMS from scratch than what it was to tinker and hammer WordPress into what we needed it to be.
That
And-
could be your
and
developer, though.
that's-
No, so
seriously, we
it's
sat
not.
down and we did a factor of the time.
So
and it
tell,
was, it was
so
a lot
so
easier.
Guy, tell those of us who aren't an expert in CMSs, what is it about WordPress that's so difficult to work with?
It's not that it's difficult to work with.
Yeah.
It's built as a framework, right?
Yeah.
And if you're trying to do something that works quickly and easily within that framework, it works quickly and easily out the box and does really nice stuff.
Yeah.
As soon as you start exploring the kind of edge cases of what you want it to do, things start shifting quite a lot. And what you would pay for a normal CMS, you start paying for guys tinkering around and fixing bugs that the open source developers have made.
But the edge cases are why corporates probably sit with SharePoint. Because though it might be clunky,
It's true.
it can do
Sure.
everything.
Yeah.
It can handle the scale, it can handle the processing, it can handle the version control and the sign off.
But everything can do everything, given enough time, money, or skill.
I suppose the question is, can anyone get it to do everything?
Sure.
Yeah.
So it actually boils down to what are you trying to do, and then from there work out. And we kind of know that inherently.
I picked the trade-off triangle. Time, quality.
Are you picking it right now? We're just
Money.
jumping to
What is
picks
it?
of the
Yeah,
week.
time, quality, and
Time,
money.
quality,
Yeah,
money.
you pick two.
Time, quality, and money.
Yeah.
Pick two of those and forget about the third one.
Yeah,
It's like
totally.
girls on the internet.
What do you
What?
pick?
Hot
Single,
crazy?
stable, and attractive. Pick two.
I'm not going to think about where I plot on that scale because I don't know
So
if
I can
want
have
to know the
single
truth.
and attractive, but totally unstable.
It's the hot crazy
Which means
thing.
it's great for about 3 weeks. And then you want to run
Unstable,
like hell thereafter.
attractive, but
And
totally
hide your
married.
pets.
You won't have any pets if
Yeah,
you stay around
exactly.
longer than
Yeah,
3
buddy
weeks.
boilers. Okay,
great.
I just want to interrupt this stream because I don't want to know where it goes. And quickly talk about
Somewhere near unstable. I
somewhere
think.
near unstable. I'm not sure where I am
Or
on the
single.
scale. So just to quickly talk about the first of our very, very cool sponsors, which is Snapdragon. Now, if you don't know, Snapdragon is the power behind most of the leading smartphones and tablets on the market today. And because they love you, ZA Tech Show listeners, every single week they are giving away a smartphone or a tablet device. And all you need to do if you want to win one of these very, very rad things is go to ZA Tech Show /Snapdragon. And there's a little puzzle, and I haven't yet cracked it, so don't feel bad if you can't. But I didn't try very hard because I'm
Okay, good.
not eligible.
All right.
I'm going to tell everybody. But it's very cool. So you just need to solve the puzzle and you can enter the prize and win some cool gadgets, because we know how much you all hate gadgets and have far too many of them in your life and don't want more of them. Cool. So thanks to Snapdragon. We love having them.
And it seriously doesn't get better than that. It's like enter the competition.
Yeah.
All right. For the next couple of weeks,
Totes.
every single
Every week. Yeah.
It's like they're giving away either a tablet or a smartphone
Yeah.
a week. It's pretty damn good odds.
Pretty good. Yeah. Do it.
So-
Do it now. What
So
are you
we
waiting
should
for?
do some of those cool. Who does it? Like The Verge and GDGT. Those
Never heard of
benchmarking
it.
races and stuff like that.
I have no idea what you're talking about, sincerely.
What?
I honestly have no idea what you're talking about.
The Verge.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Gotcha.
GDGT.
it's a
Ryan
website.
Block, ex-Engadget founder.
I phased out for a second. sorry.
Sure.
So when they
So,
take
you
like
know,
a whole bunch
my
of different
geek credit
devices
is
Yeah,
and
in
and
they run
race
this-
them and
Yeah.
benchmark.
And I
And
tell you what the difficulty with that is it's got a lot to do with, especially in the Android world, what platforms were used as the test cases when they developed those apps. So we found our app absolutely screams on others. It's mediocre on some. It depends on what the developer had at their disposal when they built the application. So Android as a whole tends to, stuff performs pretty good across the board, but certain devices work fantastically well and things like absolutely scream on them. So I would also, be a little bit skeptical about those.
I just want to race chips against each other. Come on.
I just want to know if it'll blend. Okay, so while we're talking about sort of semi-dying big tech companies, let's talk about Blackberry.
Who's semi-dying?
I'm sorry.
Microsoft.
I'm sorry.
SharePoint.
I'm sorry.
No,
SharePoint.
well,
Well, it
SharePoint.
should die.
It should
That's
die.
where we started.
didn't Microsoft make $73 billion of...
Okay, we're
I
not
don't
talking about
think
Microsoft.
it's I don't think
First
anybody's saying
loss
that
in the
Microsoft-
history
No,
of
no,
our
no,
company
no.
recently.
I
Let's
wish
just
we
put
were
it
talking
out
about the
there.
death of Microsoft, but we're clearly not. Actually, I don't. I think we need Microsoft
Microsoft's
to
the
keep
new
everyone
IBM.
else on their toes. Yeah.
IBM are cool again, though, with their whole big data kind
Yeah,
of focus.
IBM are very
Sure.
cool.
They used to not be cool, though.
They're doing very cool stuff in marketing. Anyway, let's talk about Blackberry. So, Brett, you've got some sneak peeks for us and some
Yeah,
intel
it was-
about the direction they're going in.
Is
How
it
is
dead?
it-
Is it dead? Is it
No.
dead?
Strangely enough,
Never.
I've,
It's like a
I've
zombie.
totally reversed my opinion on this. I originally thought that it was on a downward spiral on the way out. I was at Blackberry Jam in Cape Town last week, where essentially it's a meeting for devs, interested in developing for the Blackberry platform. And a big focus was Blackberry 10, and I'll get to that in a sec. What for me was more interesting, though, is chatting to the guys at Blackberry, and it seems like their focus seems to be so heavily on the emerging market right now. Now, you'd think that'd be a relatively logical move, considering that's where they've got the predominant market share. But the company, as we all know, hasn't been. They've been trying to get North America back behind them and get Europe back behind them to become relevant in those markets again. But it seems like they really have their heads screwed on and will do something pretty counterintuitive for a North American company and go, well, let's leave the developed world alone and start building and releasing new stuff for the developing world, which I think is kind of cool. It's about time they started thinking like that.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. Because my question around them trying to get the developed world back makes a lot of sense from a kind of, they get the developed world, right?
Yeah.
I suspect that they made the emerging market their market by accident.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really
Totally.
interesting to see what happens now, them going, cool, let's focus on the kind of emerging markets and see what they put out there. Because my biggest problem with people that talk about doing stuff at a grassroots level is they tend not to get it.
Totally. And you see, this is where I've also got a question, because BlackBerry 10's their big focus. QNX, pretty much the OS that's been running on Playbook for a while now. And we had a chance to see the BlackBerry 10 Alpha device. It's the first time they've actually shown it to any South African journalists. I was actually quite surprised that they did that. So they let us play around with the device and
You're in the inner circle,
Brett. No, it's just, it's strange because I know how many hoops the developers have to jump through to get one of those devices, and the really, really hardcore NDAs they've got to sign in order to get them. And then they handed a device around to the journalists to play with. And I'll get onto the device in a sec, but the interesting thing is BlackBerry 10 and the hardware platform is a premium product. So with one voice, they're talking all about how they want to get back to the emerging market and everything else. But that's going to be a really, really difficult thing to do when you're pushing a device and an operating system that's clearly aimed at competing with upper-end Android devices and iPhones. So if they're going to do that, they're going to have to keep BlackBerry 5, 6, and 7 really alive and well and launch services on the back of that. But, I think at the same time also launch something cool and new in 10, right?
I suppose cell phones are still aspirational, no matter how far down the pyramid you go. So you need to do that innovative stuff on the top end so that people will still buy the 5, 6, and 7s. Weirdly, that's what's happened with Nokia, I think.
If I look at what they've done with 10, though, and the physical device, I was actually super impressed. So, first of all, not, and then really, really impressed. So they hand the device around, and I go, well, it's like a small playbook. All right, and it is. So if you play to the Playbook, 7-inch device, this is an iPhone or Android size device, same thickness as the Playbook, same casing as the Playbook, ridiculously high-end screen on it, and that's that same coolness in terms of really fluid OS and that kind of stuff, same ports and everything else. They've done a couple of cool things. So they've built gestures into it. So you swipe from right to left across the keyboard and you go straight into the unified inbox from any app, which is cool. There's no drill out of this into a menu, click on the thing, and then you're in your unified inbox.
Yeah,
considering
cool.
that's their strength, that's cool. And then very, very cool task swapping stuff. And the keyboard is just mind-blowing. One of the things people really love about BlackBerry is the QWERTY keyboard. This keyboard not only does predictive text, but it looks at your sentences and tries to predict what the next word is. So you type in welcome, all right, it knows that logically the next word you're going to use
the jungle.
is to.
But to the jungle. Damn it, almost got that one.
Yeah, there we go, Andy.
So what it'll do is it'll take the word to and it pops it up above the T key,
great.
which is where you'd go next. You just flick the word up to the screen, and then the will populate above the T as well if that's what you wanted, or
jungle.
Start typing Cape
Does
Town,
it start singing the song to you though? Because that's what I want my phone to do.
and it learns, which is kind of rad. I found it to be probably one of the nicest touch keyboard experiences I've had. So
That's cool.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. So tell me, if BlackBerry are starting to focus a little more on Africa or developing nations, what would they have to do to create a $50 phone that actually had something built specifically for developing
Like 2 SIMs and...
Because all this stuff is great, but it's competing with the iPhone again and Android devices. What would an Africa phone look like? Because my phone didn't quite get it right. That was just
it would definitely
Android.
be dual SIM. It would have an actual keyboard.
BlackBerry
Eternal BlackBerry. I mean, battery life. Yeah.
I think
battery
they will
life's
have
a
to.
biggie.
I think they will have to unhook it somehow from the BIS service though, because I think that the only way to get a phone down to that level is to encourage operator subsidy. All right, you're not going to get your operator subsidy in when the operators are making no money on the data. So it's seriously a catch-22. Arguably, one of the things that makes BlackBerry one of the most desirable and useful devices is the whole BIS service. So it's a real...
Well, it's funny because MTM tried to do something like that with Opera and Android, didn't they? 6 months ago, and yet I've heard nothing about it since then. They launched a all-you-can-eat data offering sort of vibe, and then nothing.
Yeah, no. So a number of people have gotten onto it. The problem is it's strictly speaking uncapped. But the problem is when you start using large data volumes on it, it starts throttling you down to a virtually unusable speed. So strictly speaking, a half a kilobit a second is I mean, the connection's not capped. You're still getting data through it. It's just completely
You can wait
unusable,
forever.
right? So that's still running.
Maybe it's because Africans don't want an African phone.
That's
It
an
could
interesting
be.
idea. Because there have been some phones that have come out of the DRC, haven't there been? Like, of all places.
Well, I know there's that Nigerian crowd that did the tablet. that
Yeah.
they,
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
developed an Android tablet.
Yeah, interesting.
But yeah, I think it's seriously a tough one for them. The reason we're building for it is because it's like 60% of the smartphone space in
Yeah.
South Africa. It is
Yeah.
exponentially more as you start going through Africa. It's so people say to me, why are you
Huge.
building for this platform? Because it's like dying. And I mean, so I'm not going to comment on whether it's dying or not. That still remains to be seen. But right now, if you're developing apps, dude, 60% of the smartphone space.
It's exactly what you need to be doing.
It's
Although, I mean, I love
and
that
it's not
stat.
going to next year be none.
No,
It's going to
sure.
maybe, even if the company disappears, it's going to drop down to 50, then
Yeah.
to 40.
Although
it's still
you're
hugely
seeing
relevant,
signs of people kind of coming off it, and I think that IM is the thing you have to watch in this country
Yeah.
because that's the canary for what people are doing. That's
Coming
Mixit
off
was the thing.
BlackBerry.
Well, so the interesting stat is that more people, I think, so I must go and check this again. So Arthur Goldstuck released his Worldwide Works Mobility Report a couple of weeks ago, and it's interesting to go and look at the numbers of WhatsApp versus BBM. And it looks like more people are now using WhatsApp, which means that they're not as tied to that ecosystem anymore, in theory.
The growth is there, all right. I think that his WhatsApp figures, versus the BBM figures, he says something like 384% growth or something like that
Yeah,
in
it's
BBM, which was
wild.
huge, right?
And that's
I think
off
the
a
thing to
fairly large
consider-
base.
Yeah, but I think the thing
Yeah.
to consider with WhatsApp as well is it's 100% of the smartphone space. It's not just the BlackBerry space.
Yeah.
It's like everyone on an Android, everyone on an iPhone,
But even
everyone
if
on
people
a
are using
Nokia
BBM
device
and WhatsApp,
Blackberries.
that's fine because it just makes it that much easier for them to get ready to get off the ecosystem.
So BlackBerry buys WhatsApp.
Andy.
Serious?
And it buries them in the backyard.
Yeah, you should
No,
go
no.
and phone
Why-
up the
why
dudes
not?
at Rome.
They're still
definitely.
making... Okay, they're posting losses. They've still got cash flow.
You should be a consultant, Andy.
The one other thing that
Pays
that
good,
I found
Yeah,
really
sure.
interesting when chatting to the BlackBerry guys was they reminded us that
Yeah.
it's the first time in RIM's history that they've actually entertained the concept of licensing services. It's the first time they've turned around and said, we will entertain offers from people that want to license our IP and license our services. So that means a couple of interesting things that they won't confirm right now, but they could put BBM on other platforms, all right? They could put the whole BlackBerry OS on third-party hardware, all right? They could take the hardware and allow people to put Android on the hardware. It becomes really, really interesting, but they're more than prepared to speak to people about licensing their IP.
It's interesting. I'm not sure where the leverage lies there. BBM is being eaten by WhatsApp.
Sure.
The toehold that they've got on the market now is pretty much their
BIS.
data package.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So that's
their
where all the
hardware's
compression and stuff like
not
that lies,
great.
which gets kind of interesting.
the compression's awesome. That's what they should license. They should license their compression to Netflix or Hulu guys, iTunes.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think they are so well poised for developing markets. For that earlier point, is that they're not a phone for Africa. They're a first world phone with a first world brand with first world infrastructure.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And how
Maybe
many
they're
times
not
do we
the
have
best
to prove
ones.
that making a third world phone doesn't sell to third world people?
Sure.
I reckon the only people that can make a third world phone. Wow, look at me! I take the entire sentence back because, as I said, I was like, let's go, Hive, let's go.
Yeah,
I
the
was going to
Chinese
say the
guys.
Russians actually, but I mean, Hive.
But are they moving?
Hive
There's-
is set.
Cool.
Huawei.
Huawei. It's like
Huawei.
Huawei.
It's like that fast food chain, Huawei,
Yeah.
Huawei,
whatever.
A lot of people Huawei as well.
Those old modems that we used to use for 3G.
Whatevs. Yeah, those things. So take another little break quickly to talk about our second sponsor, who we also love with big hearts, which is Sharp Interactive. So Sharp Interactive have this very rad new interactive LED screen. I think 40 inches is the general size you get it in. edition, and you can do all sorts of incredibly cool things with it. A must-have addition to any gadgety person's office or other spaces. So it's very cool. If you want to check it out, then just head on over to sharpinteractive.coza, and you'll find lots of awesome things about it, including ideas about what you can do with it. I still maintain it needs to go in the Batcave. It would be fun. And you can draw moustaches on people in video conferences.
The sad thing,
Yeah.
right, okay, is that it can't go in the Batcave because it's like, is Tobey Maguire going to be the next Batman? It's like,
Oh no,
what's the
let's
deal
not talk
here?
about superheroes right now. I'm still depressed about the
Like
Batman
Batman's
movie.
over, man.
Why
There's like
are you
right?
depressed about
Because
Batman?
it wasn't that good.
Well, yeah,
But
I was
sorry.
also kind of
The multiverse means, Christian Bale can come back to life.
Oh, check that guy out.
That's not what this is about at
I
all.
owe that to Nick Callagher.
That is not what this is about.
Loving that
So,
guy.
I mean, what's so beautiful about the Frank Miller Batman reboot? Sorry, I could go on a total tangent here, so I'm not even going to. Okay, I'm going to cut back
nothing
to tech
wrong.
news.
Alright.
Tech news.
Batman is
We are the
15-second
ZA
elevator pitch,
Tech
and go.
Show. Tech Show.
Come
Tech Show.
on, come on, we want to hear it.
No,
Sam.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, yes, so you're right. I mean, you can do anything with Batman because of the universe. You can kill him. You can, make him dark. You can do whatever.
Dark
But-
Batman.
Dark Batman.
That's definitely the next one.
But it,
Bat Dark Man.
that dark man.
There's a
But
Batman.
I don't know.
main
You've got to have a
generation.
Played by
reason.
Liam
though.
Neeson.
You can't just make another movie like Spider-Man makes me much angrier than Batman, I
Yeah, I
suppose,
agree.
because they did nothing. They just remade the movie. Anyway, Batman was just bloated.
That's so depressing.
I'd actually like to see something.
But go watch
good.
Cabin in the Woods rather.
Yeah, that's not been licensed before. I'm really over licensed productions.
Well, I'll pick this later, but I must say I have been diving into the comic book world just for funsies, and there are a bunch of really interesting characters
Big
in
time.
the comic book world
Yeah,
that have not been made into movies.
Yeah.
I'll chuck one
Lock
out there
and
later
Key.
as well. Yeah, exactly.
Dude.
I'm
Lock
totally
and
going to go with
Key.
Lock and Key,
What the hell?
amazing.
Completely unknown
I'll
and
hook a brother
completely amazeballs.
I think yeah,
Seriously.
Guy gave
What
that to
about
me actually.
Chow?
Chew.
The guy,
Chew.
Chew, that's it. The guy who eats guys.
Sounds like
Yeah. Okay.
sounds like child, but it's actually true.
Let's stay on the kind of on the general theme of just awesome geek news, which is the Curiosity Mars rover. Dude,
Amazing.
Very
doesn't
cool.
this make you excited to be living when we're living?
You know what I love is that 7 minutes of terror.
Yeah.
You guys are clear on that, right?
No,
So when they landed the rover, they had to go fully blind. There's like a lot of stuff that they needed to do, so they had to program everything that needed to happen to land it because they couldn't get any feedback because by the time the feedback got to them, it's like way outdated. So they had to do things that they had to program everything perfectly, and it has special capsules inside it that drop out with little parachutes that have to be programmed to the absolute second. And for 7 minutes they were absolutely blind. There was nothing
Running
they
on
could do,
scripts.
and absolutely running on
So
scripts,
intense,
and
eh?
everything
Internal
possibly
five
could
hours.
break.
So there's
So
actually this
predicting a whole chain of events
Yeah.
that based on probability. It was really just like we can't be reactionary. We have to be.
This has to be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
we
is
have
the
to be
budget.
proactive.
And I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
how
crazy.
many Mars, missions have failed over the last, 50 years? Well, not quite 50, but
And what I really like about it is, in terms of the name they've chosen and everything else, the whole curiosity. I'm like, that's cool, as
Yeah.
opposed to like the giant search for rocks on the whatever. It's like it's nice because it's like
yeah.
we want to see what's there. I mean, for the sake of seeing what's there, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I
you know?
think
don't know.
the kind of science reporters are twisting it a little bit, and I appreciate any attempt to make science more appealing to the general public. But all the commentary I've read is they're looking to see whether we can live on Mars or whether there was ever
Yeah.
life there. And you're like, well, maybe amongst 100 other things, but essentially they're gathering rock samples, for 2 years, which is awesome. And we might learn cool things, but we don't have to make it sound cooler than it is.
No, but I think it was given a cutesy, very accessible name, which I think is going to give it a much broader appeal. I think people that would really not give a crap about this normally might actually.
Okay, so I hopped onto the
This time
NASA iPad app, and that is the image.
Dude.
Looks like dirt.
So I was going to
But
pick
it's
this.
Martian dirt.
Mars
It's
dirt.
Martian dirt, dude. I was going to pick this, but I'll talk about it now. So you know that the Mars Curiosity has its own Twitter account, right?
No.
It is so news. It's so cute because it
Three
speaks in
panelists hop onto Twitter very quickly.
it speaks in the first person. I'm sorry, I'm such a freaking girl, but it's so cute.
What's
Sorry,
the
I'll shut up.
well, what's it?
It's
handle.
Mars Curiosity, spelled the American way of spelling curiosity, which is kind
Is
of
it
annoying.
American way?
It doesn't have a U.
Yeah. Also known
Doesn't
as the wrong way.
Yeah. Sorry, American listeners, we love you.
It's their niche.
But yeah, I don't know where you learned to spell.
IOSITY.
Curiosity. Yeah, Mars Curiosity.
663,000 followers.
Dude, it's so cute. Anyway.
Similar to that, Mars rover.
So checks that shit out. I loved, there was a tweet by a guy when it landed, which was, it kind of capitalized on the Olympic fever going on at the same time, and it said, the nerds just took gold in the 560 billion meters. That was very cute. I mean, it's just generally been a fantastic year for science, hasn't it? I mean, there was the SKA, there was the Higgs, it's just, yeah, science.
You've got what's thingy producer guy going down to the bottom of the
yeah.
abyss.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so-
got totally fooled, I must say, a little bit, because there was a series of cartoons about the fact that he found a door at the bottom of the ocean. And for a split second, I thought that was true.
Dear universe, let it be known that Andy Hadfield is incredibly gullible.
Little sign. You have reached the end of the abyss. Turn back now.
Let's all start plotting.
There's no more
Nothing to
infinite
see here now.
There's no more infinite chasm.
Yeah.
You have reached the
So basically, he saw nothing. He saw desolation. He saw
You
one or
didn't even
two
see any
weird
weird
fish.
fish. Yeah.
No, he saw one or two weird fish.
Yeah. Those weird fish are pretty weird.
While I was going on, I was convinced that he was just sitting in a room running his Twitter account.
You're like the
And Kubrick was
conspiracy
directing.
theorists about the Mars landing. I mean, the moon landing.
But it is cool, though, if you think about it. I mean, 75% of the Earth is covered by water, and we haven't explored 75% of the Earth.
That's crazy, hey? Yeah. And, you know,
And the
so
tech
little
he
about
used to get
space
down there
and-
was pretty awesome. The fact that you tweet from the bottom of the ocean.
So if Star Trek was like this big tipping point for expanding astronomy and getting guys out and the big futurist movement, which is like, you know, the how will, what's his name? How, not Will Wheaton, but how he changed the world.
Joss?
No,
Sweden.
Not, I'm thinking of
What are you
the
talking about?
William Shatner.
Oh.
okay.
William.
Who looks like he's on a
Shatner.
Dial Direct ad, by the way.
Yes, that freaks me out. Why is William Shatner trying to sell me insurance?
I don't
Because
know.
nobody else can.
I think it's. I
Wait,
think
you
it's
didn't
a
pause long
stock
enough in a
image.
weird place.
Quickly, have you
Wait,
ever
that
used
guy
a
finished his
website
story.
called Priceline in the States? It's like a travel site where you can get like tickets and stuff.
Like
Seriously,
Tipmunk.
just go to Priceline.com. He's one of the characters they use for that. It's
That
amazing.
weirds me out.
Just do it.
So the question was,
Because he like karate's stuff and he's like,
No,
flexing his low price
he's in
muscles.
space. He's in space and he's flying things. He can't be selling me insurance.
the question really was, if Star
Danny
Trek
Crane.
if Star Trek bootstrapped the kind of astronomy movement that we have today,
Yeah.
what went so terribly wrong with Sequest DSV?
I
dude.
remember that. Mad
Fantastic.
flashbacks.
Guys, getting nostalgic. So the last thing I want to talk about tonight, just as much as I'm loving talking about arcane sci-fi stuff, is stuff about personal financial management tools and apps in South Africa at the moment. It's a space that I'm very interested in. I think it's really cool. I'm very interested because I'm a person who struggles to understand money. So anything that can help me is awesome. So there's 3 pieces of news really this week. So the first one is Nedbank's My Financial Life Suite, which is pretty cool. Money Smart is out of beta, and they're rocking with apps on every platform and doing pretty cool things. The last one, which is my favorite, is the random guy who decided to make an ABSA app because ABSA was going to take too long.
Nice.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay, so you need to split this into 2 things. First
Yeah.
of all, Tyler Reid's PR stunt. And then second of all,
I'm with Andy.
I still
Sorry.
think it's pretty funny.
no, it's funny and
It's
it's
not an app.
It's bloody clever, and I think he deserves all his
So
kudos.
I'll tell you why.
Let's just remember he wrapped the mobile site.
I'll
It's
tell
like-
you why I think it's cool, and it's so I was talking to Shap Shack, who's often on the show if you listen. So he was recently hosting the Sunday. Was it the Sunday Times? I don't know. It was the MTN App of the Year,
yes.
right?
The judge
And I
did.
was talking to him about why F&B won pretty much every category in the app thing, and he was saying, well, you know, it just worked, and it was the simple things. It wasn't about even the innovation stuff. It was kind of just that it functioned as you expected it to. And he was saying that the app that won in the Microsoft category was an app that was built in a hackathon over a weekend.
Nice.
So there's a big question in my mind of why the big, ABSs of the world, and yes, security is a big deal, but, why is it taking 2 years to build an app when you can build an app for over a weekend?
Because they're corporates.
No, look, I mean...
See, that's not good enough anymore.
Banking does have a slightly different, set of baggage, and, they don't want to change something which is used every single day by millions of people without a lot of thought. So these things do take a lot longer than you would expect.
Yeah.
That's, not a lot of the banks have come out with any kind of PFM solutions besides Nedbank now. And, I've got some insight into this. They're using Yodlee.
Yeah.
Everyone uses
Which
Yodlee.
is the same thing that 227 is using.
Exactly. But Nedbank is a vanilla implementation of Yodlee. You could have done that in a couple of months.
There's a suite of software that so when you approach Yodlee, it's a white label
Wow.
of their basics.
You get white
and every
label, you get
scheme,
SDK. They went white label. They literally just plonked their own logos on it and did a couple of tweaks here and there. So, kudos, first bank, pretty much, to have a PFM solution. And they're going to scrape other banks, which is going to make this whole environment
Which is
really
really
interesting.
interesting. And Guy, to your point, that's exactly why they can't take 2 years. They can't afford to, because if they're not building the tools, someone else is going to, whether it's a little startup or a competitor.
Yeah, but not many people are going to trust a little startup. So, I mean, 227 did some really cool stuff, and they were first to market, but I don't see a million people knocking down their door yet.
Totally. No, I'm
I think they're probably, I'm just guessing, but they're probably having to work a lot harder for users now than they did when they were hitting all that PR. And it's because the South African public just generally distrusts things like this. In the UK, it's a different story with Mint and the US.
Those guys have kind of broken down those markets. Sorry, when I first logged into Mint, because I was also looking for kind of my own personal financial stuff, they're like, put in your bank. I was like, what? Now, I come from a fairly loose security background. It's like, okay, who are these guys? Go research, go do stuff. But still, even when 227 came out, 5 years later, I was like, this still, who's Christo Darvel?
Yeah.
Who are these guys? What's their track history?
Who's this dingle person? So I think what's interesting is that I read an article about how Money Smart's growth rate at the time when 227 was launched absolutely flew through the roof because because people were all of a sudden very aware of it.
Halo effect.
Exactly. But they
but
were
Money
more
Smart
comfortable with the manual upload thing, which they've
Yeah,
now
that-
dropped, by the way.
Are they automatic yet?
Yeah.
Because they're also using Yodlee.
Yes. So yes,
Well,
now they
pretty
are.
much-
They're
there's-
automatic now.
There's
Yeah.
pretty much, in the space, there's Yodlee.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what interests me about this?
Yeah.
Just from a funding perspective, is I know what Yodlee costs, and it's a lot. I wonder who's funding Money Smart, because this isn't like a little mini angel round.
Yeah, it's interesting.
They need some serious cash to get an
It's
SDK.
clear that 227's got
No, they've got cash. Yeah.
well backing. They are well funded.
They're the most Silicon Valley of our startups, aside from Mixit, I suppose. They've got runway to just innovate, which is awesome, and I'm expecting big things from them. But now I'd love to know who's funding Money Smart.
Interesting question.
I don't know, man. Like, do you really think Money Smart has that much growth? Like, what is that much?
I'm happy to see people playing in this space. That's as
Oh,
simple as
totally.
it is for me. I want people to fight. I want them to compete against each other, and I want them to come out with the best freaking app that they can.
I'm still undecided between the Nedbank model and the 227 model. 70 rand's not a lot to spend every single month, but I think at the end of the day, South Africans are like suckers for free,
Yeah.
and that's why it's a very, very smart tactic from Nedbank to say, well, you don't have to be a Nedbank customer. It's completely free. I'll be honest with you, even though I have one account at Nedbank and the majority of my accounts are somewhere else, I don't know how comfortable I was. I sat in the press conference and I looked and I went, I don't know how comfortable I am with the fact that these guys are now going to get a ton of behavioral information on every single other bank in the country, be able to trend it. They make absolutely no bones about the fact that that's one of the things they're going to do.
Yeah,
They're going to look at your stuff and they're going to sanitize it or whatever the case
Yeah,
is,
but
but they'll still be able to pull massive amounts of behavioral and trending stuff
Here's
on
the
what
best-
FNB customers do on
Here's the best
And
action.
I can't see it also, I can't see that lasting. I see a bank going, excuse me, we're actually not comfortable with you having access to all of our
They
customers'
can't
bank
block
accounts.
it.
Sorry,
Disagree, and here's why.
Am I
If
going
you're
to
a
have to throw
Nedbank
water on
customer,
all of you?
I know, sorry, Guy, you go next, I promise.
Yeah.
If you're a Nedbank customer, okay, and you hook up your Yodely thing and it starts scraping data, and then they go, dear Nedbank customer, you have a Standard Bank account. Do you know you're paying 49 Rand too much per month if you just move that account back to Nedbank? Done. Sold.
Yeah.
And that's what they're going to do.
Isn't that anti-competitive, though?
No, because it's done in the States all over the place.
As long as it's
You've
honest
given
as well.
them the data. You've given them the ability to scrape your Standard Bank account, your FNB account, your Absolute
And do you know
account.
who wins in this whole equation? We do.
Consumer, yeah.
We do.
Sure.
Yeah. Guy,
Absolute
you
fees
are gonna
hang
go
on.
through the floor.
Guy, you had a point.
But I may be being glib. If
Well, that's a precursor.
if they think they're going to do their behavioral scraping stuff, they first need to get right the fact that they don't need 5 different Fika accounts for the same
totally.
for the same thing.
Good point.
I mean,
Sorry, what do you mean?
so you go to the bank. You need to open. You want to open up another home loan. You've got a. This is absolutely true example. You've got another home loan with them. You have an account with them. Those things have been Fika. They're there. So you've got another property with them. They still need you to re-Fika.
Yeah, sure, but that's bad laws and processes
No,
and
it's
all
bad,
that kind of stuff.
but I mean-
That's got nothing to do with financial scraping.
No, but it's got to do. They've got to get
Customer
all
service
of that
element is
stuff
what you're
right.
trying to say,
Yeah, but that's a different thing. Like what the scraping thing is going to do in the short term, and the bank that has the balls to do this, or 22/7 or Money Smart, the bank, whoever has the balls to go, right, you have an ABSA account, you're paying 200% more than anyone else, and Yodely has those tools built in, those benchmarking tools. That is going to cause some interesting stuff. And I agree, Fika sucks and bank processes are slow, and they're usually slow for a reason because a bank is about lowering risk. But that's, this whole financial scraping thing is a completely different kettle of fish.
And you probably understand a lot more of that space. That was my good English sentence. You probably understand that space a lot better than
Well
I
done,
do.
Guy.
Thank you.
And you haven't even had any wine.
Yeah.
This is why we love having Andy on the show. This is why I love having Andy on the show.
He makes me look good when I speak.
I have another
He brings
question.
wine.
And this is why we're all kind of grasping at straws here. Why are startups so... What word can I say that's kind of vehement?
You're
but
allowed
not a swear word?
Afrikaans swear words.
No, I can't do that.
That's the word.
I
That's
sound
the
like a
rule.
real Roynick. Why are startups so
Soaked
scared
bill.
of sharing
Oh, you wanted to
numbers?
say fricking.
Frickin's good.
Frickin'.
Why are startups so
Why is
frackin' scared
Fudgin'.
of sharing numbers?
Because
Why do we not know what 22/7's members are? What Money Smart's members are?
My gut is that immediately puts a benchmark to stuff. So
Yeah.
you can pretend that you're succeeding, you can pretend that stuff's not working for you. The second that you share those numbers, people can then relate you to other startups, and they can actually work out what exactly is happening. Because for a startup,
But your investors will know it.
no,
and
but it's
that's
not about
really
the
who
investors.
counts.
It's about. I think there's a psychological game, and I think there's a psychological game in the spin. So you can do the whole using, say, lean startup lingo. You can do the vanity metric stuff, and completely go, cool, I'm cracking it. This is going on. The second you go to Joe Public and go, this is what we're doing. Suddenly, that magic spin, that kind of glamour, kind of slips away.
See, but I'm with Andy on this, and I just want to say for a sec here, it's like it's unbelievably sobering, all right, to look at your numbers, because Andy's probably in the same boat as me. We'd love our numbers to be a lot higher than what they are, right? Because we're obviously extremely passionate about our startups and stuff like that. But you know what? It feels so freaking good to just not sugarcoat it, to not lie. It's
Sure.
like it's warts and all, guys. So you know what? When somebody gives you a compliment, goes, "Hey, that's actually pretty damn good for 2 months," you have no idea how good that feels.
Yeah.
And having been in media for a while, and knowing how to just position the figures, because often you're doing that and it's spin and everything else, it's been so nice this time around to
Streamgate.
just kind of say, well, there are the figures,
Yeah.
right?
I would just
And
really
a whole bunch of
like
people
to
look at
know.
them and kind of go, that's not bad. And a whole bunch of people goes, wow. For
Yeah.
For
I
2
think
months,
anyone
that's
who
awesome. And you kind of
understands-
go, shit, I'm so proud of
Yeah.
what we've done.
I think anyone who really understands how small the market is in South Africa,
Yeah.
sees things in
But that's
different
what's everyone's. That's what scares everyone.
Yeah.
Is that the market is small.
It
But
is.
ad agencies, digital ad agencies,
Mm.
have started being a lot more upfront about stats. I mean, you can speak
Mostly.
to this. Well, the minute you enter
Yeah,
awards,
no, we have, yeah.
you have to be upfront
Yeah.
about these kind of stats.
And I mean, frankly, everyone who's looking at your stats is more and more clued up about them. So it's just not in your interest to try and fudge numbers anymore.
Sure.
But to Andy's point, that's the right way to do things.
Yeah.
I mean, full disclosure equals, people
Totally.
going, this may be working, this may not be working, here's
But
possible
this
growth.
isn't a
Let's
South
educate each
African
other.
thing. I mean, if you look at the Cannes Award entries of 5 years ago, sort of when digital was still digital, oh my God, it's digital, oh my God. You look at these case studies that people entered, and they put up stats like the Facebook group, or it would have been Facebook group 5 years ago, grew by 320%.
Yeah,
Like,
from
were they
8
starting from 1?
to
See
15.
this other
Exactly.
thing, yeah.
So it's industry wide, and yeah. Anyway, but we're
I
not here to
just-
talk about.
No, but I think this
Marketing.
is a really important part of the tech landscape in this
Yeah,
country.
it's true.
Is we have nothing to benchmark.
Yeah.
And this is why the banks are slow in moving towards the space, because let's take a wild flyer at how many users MoneySmart and 22/7 have.
Yeah.
Just for funsies, take a wild flyer.
I would guess that they have 100K registered users,
That
100
many?
which
That
translates to how many
100,000.
active.
I wouldn't put it anywhere
So
near
there's
that.
Maybe
3
not.
times as many people as have downloaded the F&B app,
Okay, that's a good.
and
that's
that's
a
a
good
rumor.
benchmark.
I don't know
That's
that.
a good
but
benchmark.
I heard 30,000 downloads of the F&B app. That'd
Yeah.
be 3 times that many.
I don't know.
think anyone
When-
close to that.
I think
I mean,
20,000 is a big
how
number.
many Blackberries are there now? It's like 24% of the mobile market.
No, it's like 4 million out of 8 million, or 6
Mm.
million out of 8 million. Okay, so now let's just say whatever, 20,000 to 100,000. I really think 20,000 is closer. The banks probably have 4.5 million active internet users that are active every month, if not every week. Now those numbers, we're just not showing numbers like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's
I've got
tricksy.
Arthur's figures here.
Yeah,
I can dig
they're
them out for you.
beautiful.
I just remember being like absolutely astounded at how high the USSD usage was.
Yeah.
By comparison to like 0.3%.
Yeah.
We're using the app, and the rest was all USSD.
So look, I mean, we must get on to
Okay.
picks of the week in a second, but I think what's fascinating for me is the big divide between urban and non-urban in South Africa. So it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter where.
Sure.
So if you're in the townships, I mean, I've spent time in Soweto, like interviewing people about their cell phone usage, and everyone in Soweto is so clued up. They are sharing music, they are downloading music in the first place, they're IMing, they're all socially networked and all of that. But the second you go out to Limpopo, nothing,
Although the one thing that was quite interesting was that gap is narrowing.
Yeah.
It is narrowing really, really quickly. I was very surprised to see the number of people in rural areas making use of like pure data services. It was very, very surprising. I mean, I suppose what's the alternative really? But yeah,
Sure.
it is narrowing.
So,
it's quite interesting.
On that note, we did start a bit late, so I've let it go on a little bit. But I think we do need to hop off to our
What do you think
picks.
you're hosting this?
Oh, shut up, bitch. Sorry. I mean, what can I say in Afrikaans? Okay, so let's hop off to picks of the week. Andy, let's start with you.
Oh man, I've forgotten mine already. Okay, so I wanted to pick 2 things, fairly quick. Number 1, The Walking Dead comic book.
No,
Plus one.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Supreme Wilson. Very good.
So I never read comic books since Sub B. I don't think they even have something called Sub B anymore.
What the hell was sub B?
Grade
It's like grade 2,
naught.
dude.
Grade
Oh,
1.
okay. Sorry.
Grade 2.
Grade 2.
Sub A was grade 1.
Okay, so grade 2. Beano.
This isn't the day of
And-
standards.
Wait,
Tintin.
you went to school in like KZN?
No.
Cape
I went to
Town.
school in
Cape Town.
KZN.
Okay, well, I'm trying to think where it was. Sub A and Sub B was like not Transvaal. It was grade 1 and grade 2. Back
Yeah.
when we used to
In-
call
in
it
Cape
the
Town, man.
Transvaal.
I remember having class 1, class 2.
Anyway,
and
shut
so
up.
on. Sorry. Anyway.
Beano and
Yes.
Tintin were the comic books I read in Sub B.
Didn't read Archie and Casper.
And Archie.
Yeah.
But not as much Archie. Veronica was so 60s. So,
She was hot though.
I haven't read
Crazy,
a comic
crazy.
book since then. Rattle alert. I haven't read a comic book since then. And when I got the iPad, I'd heard so much about reading comics on the iPad and how it was really cool. So I went to the comic book store, and the featured kind of top, most popular one was The Walking Dead. I'd vaguely heard about some TV series coming, so I downloaded it. I am 91 episodes in, and it is quite simply one of the best stories I have ever read.
So good.
It is
still
amazing.
zombies.
Some of
And
the
it's
best,
zombies.
Yeah.
some of the
So
best
good.
literature I've ever read in comic book.
Yeah.
Comic book
But like just the character development is so good. And I think people that haven't read a comic book, and it's so accessible on devices like the iPad, they expect it to be, you know, a lot of whiz bang pow. But the character development is intense, and the themes are mature. I mean,
And people really do destroy their characters. Like, that's what I love about Kirkman, is he decimates his characters.
yeah, he gets you hooked on a character and then he kills it.
Yeah.
And
That bastard.
I mean, it's graphic and it's hectic. So I've been really surprised
Game of
at
Thrones.
Yeah.
I've been really surprised at the literary quality of
Mm.
and
Well,
not
in
all
art,
comic
I mean,
books,
that's
but
the thing. You know what I
this
love
comic
about
book.
it is you can actually take time with every single frame and just
Mm.
marvel
Yeah.
at how phenomenally well they've been drawn.
and The Walking Dead is black and white.
Yeah.
It's not even color. So that's pick number 1. And pick number 2 is a very quick pick. I did a Google Hangout the other day with Michael Cohen of No Picket Fence, and it was really cool. Google Hangouts are awesome.
Yeah.
Like A, it records straight to YouTube, so the entire thing is available.
Mm.
B, the kind of swapping where it hears the noise coming from.
Mm.
The controller that can mute people and do a whole bunch of stuff. There's no stats. I had no idea of how many people were actually watching.
Mm.
But then you've got the chat room there as well. I was really, really impressed.
Yeah, we're playing with Hangouts quite a bit.
Mm.
It might actually become the way we deliver the video element of ZA Tech Show in the
Yeah.
next couple of weeks. We not there yet because I think there are some infrastructural things that we want to get better down.
Mm.
But you know what, we've been ridiculously impressed by how
It's
it's
Yeah.
going.
amazing.
I think just their events handling in general is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know some very geeky people, but I've definitely got friends that have suicided their Facebook accounts, and they're just like, no, I will only do Google Plus until everyone else gets here.
I've actually been seriously considering that. I heard of another exodus today. Like two more people wandered off. It's really interesting. Like Facebook guys are leaving.
Okay, so Andy, those are great picks. Thank you.
Yep, that's
We
it.
did hijack them a little bit. I'm sorry.
No.
Brett, you and I, we're
Less
gagging
verbose than
ourselves.
usual.
Yeah, so
Okay, Guy, pick of the
go.
week.
Okay, well, I'm going to do 2 just to irritate everybody.
You're allowed to.
My main one is Get Prismatic. It's a content aggregator. GetPrismatic.com. It's written in a Lisp variant called Clojure, which is Lisp. Lisp is what they'd really use for artificial intelligence or pseudo-artificial intelligence and machine learning and stuff. And Clojure just lets the Java libraries be hooked in. And what it does is it kind of goes, you log in with your Twitter account, it's at OAuth, and it scans your timeline, sees the stuff that you're interested in, says, these are things that you're interested in? And you go, yep, cool.
Did it say, Guy Taylor, you are interested in haircuts?
It did not say haircuts. No, haircuts, unicorns, or
Bacon.
bacon.
Damn it.
What's it called again? Spell it.
Get Prismatic, GET, Prism, PRISM, attic.com. And it's absolutely brilliant. So I've stopped going anywhere else for actual news. I go through my Get Prismatic feed and I vote up articles that I'm interested in because it learns from that. And it's
It's so funny how, Dig never died.
yeah,
Dig
but
and Reddit are alive and well
it
and living on your
shifted
tablet.
the organic filter. It's
Yeah.
the best filter I've seen in a very, very long time. And it's actually changed the way I've been thinking about journalism for a bit, which is really interesting.
Look, I mean, I think you threw some people with all your talk of Lisp and stuff like that.
Sorry, it's a tech show, and I actually really just wanted to get that out there.
No, that's all good.
Because it's actually really sexy tech too. It's really old school in certain ways, but in new school sheen, it's very sexy tech and is worth playing with.
So you know my only issue with these kind of things, I gather it grabs your social graph, Facebook, Twitter, and then customizes the newsfeed like that.
Yeah.
So because we work in tech, my Twitter feed is 90% tech, which is not everything I'm interested in.
But
Yeah.
you can customize it. So I've added architecture to my feed, which is not something that's ever happened on my
I didn't even
Facebook
know
feed.
you were interested in architecture.
I'm only interested in architecture on like Tuesdays. I'm so generalist, dude. I'm interested in the weirdest
Sexy
things.
Architecture Tuesdays.
So much.
You
That's
should
what I'm
start
doing
it
Couch
tomorrow.
costumes.
Texture Tuesday.
Anyway,
Yeah.
coming back. Highly customizable. Play with it a bit. See if you like it.
That's a great pick.
I'm really happy with it.
Mm.
My second.
Do you actually have time to read stuff?
I do now. Thanks
Some
to
of
this.
us don't spend our lives on
Thanks
Twitter.
to this, I've done away with my RSS readers. I don't scour Twitter for news. I don't scour for interesting stuff because Prismatic brings it to me.
Oh, good. So when I do that frantic hunt on tech news 5 minutes before the ZA Tech Show every Monday, and I'm like, oh, what the hell happened this week?
That's
I
what I
could
did
just
this
do that.
afternoon, and there was still nothing interesting that happened in tech news. So.
Oh, good. It wasn't just me. Okay, thanks.
Second pick is actually a dude.
We
Mr.
don't
Merlin
judge.
Man.
It's okay.
Again, you start with
Oh,
lists,
Mr.
now
Merlin
you're
Man.
on dudes.
So I started listening to 5x5 Back to Work.
Superb.
It is one of the most incredible podcasts that I've heard, and it's Mr. Merlin Man, and just him being so absolutely human. He's brilliant. 5x5 Back to Work is absolutely amazing.
His
Very
handle
cool.
on Twitter is Hot Dogs Ladies.
Hot Dogs Ladies.
Hot Dogs Ladies.
If you enjoy that, you should also look into You Look Nice Today, a journal of
I've seen
emotional
that.
hygiene.
Yeah.
He is
Fantastic,
probably
really.
one of the smartest men alive in
Oh,
a very
and-
strange way.
And he's Mr. Inbox Zero.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
if you
Dude.
haven't done it yet, YouTube Inbox Zero now.
Ah.
Do it.
Mm.
It's amazing.
Awesome.
And
Good
those are my
picks, Guy.
Thanks.
Mr. Bretsky.
Okay, cool. So very, very quickly, I spoke about Daniel Suarez, one of my favorite authors, a couple of weeks back. Kill Decision is his new book. I bought it the day it released on Audible. I am halfway through part 2 of it. It is amazing. So he wrote Demon and Freedom a couple of years back. Phenomenal books. This is as good, if not better. That time, it was all about the darknet, and now this time it's about autonomous, militarized killing drones. So and artificial intelligence and insect swarming behavior developed into an algorithm which is retrofitted into these autonomous drones. It's amazing.
It's about Wednesdays, really.
So autonomous drone Wednesdays after beautiful architecture Tuesdays.
Totally have to hook
The
into your
week
Twitter list.
according to Guy Taylor.
But seriously, go do it. If you enjoy Demon and Freedom, if you haven't read Demon and Freedom, do that and then do this, or do
Oh, you've
do,
got to read Demon and Freedom.
do
first.
Kill
just
Decision
do
and
it.
then go do these. Really, he is probably one of the best authors in terms of writing stuff for our time. If you're remotely into tech, artificial intelligence, security, he writes stuff that is so believable and so relevant and so real.
And so
it
well
makes
researched.
It makes you scared, dude, because this stuff's actually going on in the world. So now everywhere I look, I see autonomous drones. It's mad. So do that. Kill Decision by Daniel Suarez. And then I switched recently to Jelly Bean when I got my Nexus device back. And the problem was because I was on my iPhone for the length of time I was, and because I'm so embedded into the Apple ecosystem, I started using iCloud for all of my data synchronization and that kind of thing. And the biggest hassle was totally up-to-date diary, totally up-to-date contacts list, not synchronizing across to an Android device. But now you can, all right? I found 2 little applications. There's a calendar one and a contacts one. Smooth Sync for cloud services, all right, is what you're looking for. Just Google for that in the Play Store. You have to buy them. They're like $21 and $31 Rand, respectively. And for basically $50, I now have everything in my world in iCloud, and iCloud is now synchronizing with Android. Very highly recommended. You install it, you give it your username and password, you're done. So that's Smooth Sync for iCloud.
So we were talking last week actually about how none of us really know what to do with iCloud because everything's already synced by Google. So that's interesting. Maybe.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
you know
they
what
don't
something
work
was-
very well together. By the way.
No, they
You
don't play
can't do
nice.
both.
They don't play nice.
Well, you have to choose one or the other if you're on the Mac ecosystem.
Yeah.
The problem is things get out of whack in terms of time. So what happens is often the timestamps in Google are like US time, and I'm in South African time, Central African time, and it was a little bit hacky to get together. Whereas it's all just checkboxes with iCloud, which is why I started using that again. And now, download the 2 applications, give it your username and password, you're done.
Cool.
So highly recommended.
Nice picks, gentlemen.
Well done. Pat on the backs.
You're dropping yours out.
Thank you. What is yours?
Oh, do I get to have picks? Oof.
You
I
got
was
it.
going to
You
pick
got it.
a little Chrome plugin called Unbaby Me, which deletes any babies from your Facebook feed, which I'm quite fond of. I've reached that age where this has become an issue. I need a plugin for deleting
want
friends'
babies or you
pugs
don't want
pictures,
babies?
Guy
That's
Taylor.
nice.
Just saying. But I'm actually, I like your introduction on sort of rediscovering the love of comic books because you have an iPad, Andy. So the app that I use for reading comic books is Comic Book Lover. It's
haven't heard of that.
really good. It's quite basic. But what it does do is it's very good at managing your metadata and kind of keeping all your series discrete, which is great.
Nice.
So if
What's
you read
it
a lot
called?
of Comic Book Lover,
Comic book lover.
yeah, lover. So if you read a lot of comic books on your iPad, and really, why else would you own an iPad? Then that's the thing. I'm still not entirely sure why I own an iPad apart from comic books.
Other
Anyway.
comic books. What have I got? Comic X.
Comic Seal. is
Comic
what I
Yeah.
use.
Seal.
Pretty cool.
and
Comic Seal's
Marvel.
pretty cool.
The
So I've
Comic
tried
Seal
a
is the
couple.
one where you pirate all your comic books, I guess.
Yeah, so I pirate all my comic books, and I
I
use
use
Comic
Creative
Book Lover,
Commons
and it deals with
comic
them quite
books.
well.
Creative Commons.
Quick
comic
last minute honorable mention.
Yeah.
You were saying Walking Dead.
Yes.
Lock and Key.
Dude,
Lock and Key.
don't download it
Seriously.
Lock
immediately.
and Key.
Is it
I
worth
read the
paying
first one
for?
and I was like,
Yes,
don't know.
I
Booked,
paid for it.
done, sold.
It's so good.
I paid for the Lock and Key series.
So
and
worth it.
What's it about?
Can't tell you.
Yeah.
Won't tell you.
It's impossible. No,
It's-
it's
it's
just
written by-
impossible to
Complex.
say.
It's
It's
very
written by Stephen King's nephew,
Mm,
and don't let that put you off. It is really, really, really good.
it's very good. It's very dark.
Yeah, but you're right. For the first two, you don't know where the hell you're at, and you're going, what's actually, and then suddenly
Yeah.
bam, books you.
So
Fantastic.
we're so way over time. So if you're still listening to this, we love you. Thank
for
you for
you.
still listening
You're
to this. You're
amazing.
awesome. So as a kind of closing point, it is the World Wide Web's 21st birthday today, guys.
So are we going to sing?
Let's not. But I think sometimes we're very excited by new things, but not necessarily by the old things on the web that are still really freaking cool. And the origins of the web are really, and social networking are message boards, and those are freaking cool. So I want to make my second pick of the week, My Broadband, the best forum in South Africa.
Sure. Yeah.
Forums are still
Oh,
awesome.
yes.
Still
Oh, yes.
awesome, still the best way to learn about anything, to join a community. So this week I've been looking for a new router that's better, and My Broadband is making me very happy. So for forums,
Sure.
Yeah. It's like one of those true communities. you
Yeah.
know, where you actually get to know people and you have to deal with trolls.
Or
and-
like 4chan and something awful where you really don't want to know the
Oh,
people.
man.
But
on
they're
the B
massively,
board, you don't want to know
massively
anybody on the B
entertaining.
board. Anywho,
the fact that you know the B board.
I say nothing. I'm just going to reference the
not know
hot
the B board.
crazy scale. Anyway.
I would totally go with it's your job
The
to
hot
know
crazy
stuff.
scale.
Yeah, there we
Know
go.
stuff
There it
and
is.
research.
What Brett said.
That's How I Met Your Mother, the hot crazy scale.
It's
That's
so
Barney
true.
Stinson.
So true. It's the triangle, but with the third thing taken off. Anyway, so Mr. Guy Taylor, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope that it wasn't too painful or awkward, and that the cuddling afterwards will be worth it.
It was really, really cool. Thank you. I was actually just reflecting that the difference between this cherry and the actual
Whoa.
cherry popping was this time I came late.
We love it.
Thanks, Guy. Join us anytime.
Thank you for having me.
You can follow Guy on at XSYN, and he's really fun on Twitter, so do that. And he's not quite as dirty on Twitter as he is on podcast.
Hookers
I'm
don't
actually not that dirty.
snuggle.
So thanks.
That's all I learned.
Mr. at Andy Hadfield, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Sam.
Always fun. Thank you for bringing your liquor of the gods. Always appreciated.
Is
Helps-
it the lick of the gods?
Helps the cherry pop a little bit easier. And
It did
finally,
help.
Mr.
Relaxed guy.
Mr. at Bretsky, thanks as always for being on.
Thanks, lady. It's fun.
Yeah, lovely hanging. And I'm Sam Beckbessinger at Greenham_Sam. The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Snapdragon. Win a new tablet or smartphone by visiting zatechshow.com/Snapdragon, and by Sharp. Check out the amazing new Sharp Interactive LED at sharpinteractive.co.za. Good night, all.